Alright, welcome back to eBook page 6, The Travel Adventures of Mr. Sneaky Duck and Edgar Allan Crow. Today you might want to click here because that will open up some notes. There are going to be a lot of them today. First, we're going to read aloud and think aloud. I'm going to read what we learned last time. We're going to get some new information, which are the types of claims and the types of evidence and support. We talked about that a little bit, but not completely. We're going to talk about validity of evidence and cross-checking information. Then you're going to have quiz 2 and move on to page 7. So, let's read. What is Edgar Allan Crow like? That means what's his personality. It doesn't say what does he look like. It says what is he like. Mr. Crow Sr. told Edgar to fly west until he hit Japan. He said that there were large colonies of crows in Japan and garbage as far as the eye could see, even from a crow's nest. That's where I met Edgar Allan Crow at the temple pictured in the background. He was happy to have made it to Japan, and his dad was right about the garbage. Unfortunately, Mr. Crow Sr. had to stop in Hawaii on the island of Oahu. He's living there now, away from airports. Mr. Crow Sr. just didn't have the strength to make it to the promised land of Japan. Edgar told him he would visit every year. Getting to know Edgar, we found out right away that he hates that his name rhymes with the famous poet Edgar Allan Poe. He argues that his middle name is spelled with one L and not two. What Edgar really hates, a pet peeve, although he can talk quite well, and many crows can, he hates being asked to say nevermore. Edgar goes crazy. He argues that the bird in Edgar Allan Poe's famous poem, The Raven, was indeed a raven and not a crow. He then goes bonkers, telling Mr. Sneaky Duck and I the difference between ravens and crows for hours. I think that I've heard him say, he talks kind of in a gruff voice, he says, "It's like saying a leopard is a tiger. Redonkulous," about 1,000,000 times. Edgar also hates when people say that ravens are smarter than crows. Ravens are definitely smart, he says, but crows are also quite intelligent. His father, mother, great-grandparents, and all of his ancestors had to be smart to survive. Edgar, though, was a little bit of an outcast in school. Most of the other crows were very left-brained. You might want to look that up if you don't know what that means. And loved mathematics and science. They bullied him a little because he liked to write, dance, and paint. He always loved art, travel, and the unknown. Edgar Allan Crow also fancies himself a writer and tends to add things to his stories or leaves details out, just to make them better, he says. I don't think he means to lie. He just wants to make the stories more interesting. I often find myself checking his stories. And there he is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about what we learned last time. And I want to point out some things about what we learned last time on page 5. We were talking about evidence and support, claims and evidence. And in the last couple of questions of the quiz here, it says, it's kind of incorrect here. It says, what should crows not eat? And then this is your claim, what crows should not eat. And so if I had to look at that, and try to research it to figure out what they should not eat, I might just want to look on Google here and put keywords, what should crows not eat? And look that up while I'm taking the quiz. And then here it says the 10 best and worst things to feed a crow. So I could look at that. And so it goes into one of the worst is chocolate, it says. And it says it causes seizures and death. Wow, that's absolutely horrible. So then on my question, I could have said, what should crows not eat? Crows should not eat chocolate. And say why? Well, according to, and then I look at this website, the avesnoir.com, the worst thing to feed a crow is chocolate because it causes vomiting and diarrhea and seizures and eventually death. And then I would say where the information came from. So it says, this is your evidence. Who or what website gave you? And I said which website. So I said why, according to them, it's going to kill the bird. And so we know chocolate is very dangerous. And then the next question, do birds get killed at airports by falcons? Again, I pre-searched this, airports with falcons, and came up with lots of information that says that yes, they do get hunted. And then you just say which website you found it from, and that would be your evidence. So like here, your claim would be birds at airports get killed by falcons, and your evidence would be from the website. All right, let's continue here. New information now. What types of claims and types of evidence and support? And this is where you might want to look at your notes. Okay, credibility of information is very important, or validity of information. Remember when you were a little kid and in elementary school, or maybe you still are, they told you if you ever get lost, you need to ask a police officer where to go because he is a trustworthy source. He's somebody that you can rely on to help you to find your parents or your home. Now, an author also has credentials. Let's say, for instance, you're looking for information about a sickness or a cold, and you want to know if the author has any kind of medical background. Is the author a doctor? Does he know or does she know what medical information they need to know in order to be trying to convince you? Or are they just an author that has studied a little bit about medicine? So what is the author's credential? If you're writing a paper about medicine, you're going to want to have credentials of some doctors. If you're writing a paper about the land or geography, you might want to get a geologist or something similar. So credibility is very important also in online information. And how do we know? So is the online web page, is it up to date? Is it factual? Okay? Is it reasonable? Is it fair? Is it balanced and objective? We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. And does it have any support? Does it have any sources listed where they get their information from? Okay? And this information comes from right here. So when you're thinking about validity or credibility of a website, I would look to check the authorship. In other words, who wrote this? Can you check their qualifications? Do they say where they're from? Do they say I'm a medical doctor, or I'm a PhD, or I'm a professor from a university? And can it be verified? Can you look that professor up at that university and see that that professor does work there and that's true? Check the timeliness. Look to see when it's written. Is it possible to determine when a website was created or updated? So check the scope. Is the focus of this site clear, or are they talking about a bunch of different things? Is it objective? And check the reliability. Are what they're saying, the assertions that they're saying, are they accurate? Are there errors in spelling or grammar or punctuation? Not just speaking like Mr. Raines, but everything. You know, I try to be accurate sometimes, but if I make a little mistake when I'm talking to you, does that mean that I'm not reliable? No, it doesn't. It means I'm teaching you that everybody's not perfect. So, in short, credibility or validity. It has to be trustworthy source. You have to check the author's credentials. So, if I wanted to look at a website, for instance, this one was about Falcons and it's nationalgeographic.com. And if I want to look at the author, it says Cameron Walker. So if I wanted to look up Cameron Walker and see who that person was, if they really exist, if you know, they know what they're talking about, a lot of them, and they were on National Geographic. So she has a, or he has a LinkedIn. I don't know if it's a male or female. So it's a male, and it says independent contractor. He's an Institute of Studies in Monterey. So this guy looks like he pretty much is a very intelligent person who knows what he's talking about. So I'm going back to the page. Then it says it was written on March 25th, 2003. That's pretty recent, but not super recent. I could check some more stuff if I wanted to about, you know, falconry. If you go way down at the bottom, it has the organization usually. Sometimes it will say about. So if you look at this home and go through these things, you may see sometimes contact us. So they even give you a contact information, which makes the site a little bit more valid or credible, that you can check and contact. They even had telephone numbers and an address you can mail to. It seems like they're very open to suggestions, email addresses, maps, and it just seems like they have quite a bit of stuff. So if I had to look and ask about the credibility of this website, I would say it's good. But we talked about a cross-check. So even though this is a very reliable and valid website, I want to look up falconry and airports, and I want to see if the same information that falcons are being used to basically kill birds at airports, if I want to cross-check that to make sure it's accurate information. So I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to put that in there. Falconry used to secure North American airports. And I don't want that. I'm just going to say falconry, and I'm going to put used at airports, and enter. And the article that I got from National Geographic comes up first. And this one is the Wall Street Journal. So I'm going to right-click and open link in new tab because I still want to get the information in case this one's not good. Falcons at New York JFK Airport join the flock of unemployed. Whoa. So this is April 19th, 2011. And it's saying the opposite. So now we have quite an argument. Are they using Falcons or are they not using Falcons at airports in the United States? Let's try to find a different website. Let's try to see if they're doing it LAX, where Mr. Edgar Allan Crow was from. And we can see in USA Today has an article. And that article was on 2013, which is more recent than the other one. The other one was 2011. For years, this island harbor town is a serious tourist problem. Its beaches are constantly raided. And so you can read this, and I'm going to save your time. He said, led by licensed master falconry, Rocky Post, and joined by a few feathered colleagues, the winged residents quickly established a rule of the skies over Avalon, clearing the air.
From the brand known for power, Steel Lightning Battery System.
I'm trying to turn off the sound on the page.
Designed to get more out of a single charge.
Sometimes you'll get an advertisement open up.
What can
You need to just close it. It happens because people have to pay for websites, and ads are what pays for them. So I was reading through here that indeed they do have falcons going after birds at this airport, and it's in California, and this is USA Today. And if we want to check the validity of this website, we could see who wrote the article. So you have to scroll down. It may just be the staff of this newspaper. Sometimes, nope, it's William M. Welch, and it even leaves his email address. That's pretty credible. I can look him up if I wanted to. I can guarantee you he's a regular writer for this newspaper, though. And so if I wanted to look up USA Today, I could find out that they're a very reputable newspaper. And so I could actually cite information from this saying that birds do get hunted down by falcons. All right, let's quickly go back over what we talked about. We have claims of fact. These are things that are factual and historical, to say like George Washington was the first president of the United States. That's very factual. We also have claims of value, and a lot of these are saying that perhaps one type of thing or moral belief is better than the other. So taste is a good one. Without getting too deeply into morals, we could talk about apples are better than oranges. Oh, really? And then people could try to talk about, the vitamins and the nutrition, and they can also talk about their own examples and how perhaps one lasts longer than the other. But they can talk about lots of things with claims of value when they're talking about apples and oranges. Claims of policy, this is things or actions that should or shouldn't happen, or plans that can be workable or not, or the benefit of certain things. A lot of times this has to do with politics, or your neighborhood or something like that. what is the benefit of having a park in my neighborhood? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And then people can make claims on what the advantage is and what the advantage is not. So a park, having a park would give a place for kids to play. So that is a claim. Then we had types of evidence. We have facts, like the grass is green. We had statistics, and I showed you the U.S. Census Bureau website. Quotes, which maybe I didn't talk a lot about, but we just have to ensure that those quotes are from a valid or credible source. You're talking about medicine, then get a doctor's opinion or a doctor's words. If you're talking about education, perhaps somebody who's an expert in education. You're talking about basketball, perhaps Michael Jordan would be a good person to ask. So we also have examples, but you have to be careful about examples. A lot of times personal examples can only apply to certain, few. Be very careful about that. And here we have some examples you can read through on your own. Validity, we ask ourselves several things about online things, online websites. Who wrote it? When was it written? Is it clear and focused? What's the affiliation of the author? Is it a government website? Is it educational? And are these things that they're saying accurate? Now, in short now, not always, a .gov website will have pretty credible information. A .edu will also. However, .com might have to be checked now and again because they don't always have valid or reliable information. Anybody can make a .com website or a .net website. Even .org, anybody can make a .org website. But .edu, you have to be an educational institution, and .gov, you have to be a governmental institution. Got tongue-tied. So, in short, this is everything for today. I want you to go ahead and try to answer some of these more specific questions about evidence and support. Some of it will have to do with some of the claims that Edgar Allan Poe makes in this reading. So you have to be careful. I will try and highlight some of these for you just to give you a little helping hand as to which ones are claims and not. But pretty soon I'm not going to be helping you. Have a good day. Alt-Tab. Stop.